Hello, everyone. It's your boy Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It, and it's been a while. Give you guys a bit of a heads up. Life happened. Got new job, new promotion stuff, so time kind of wasn't as available to me as it once was. So things kind of had to move around, and just when I thought I was getting some time structured to start doing these again, life happened, and the world is now facing a pandemic. So everyone has a lot more time than they did before. So I have all the time in the world to kind of knock out some videos and do some stuff. And so while we're all at home binging and reading books and playing video games, and I hope still getting fresh air while social distancing, everyone also is quarantining and chilling. And wow, I thought it would be cool to kind of get back into the groove of things by talking about some stuff that I'm watching while I'm quarantining and chilling with my significant other, my wife. It's the only two of us in the house. But thought it would be cool to just kind of go through things. And if you guys have any things that you think I should be watching, any things that I'm not aware of, I'll go ahead and watch them and I'll give you guys what I think about them. So first thing on the list was the new reboot of Jay and Silent Bob that Kevin Smith just released. He did a whole road show for it, and I finally got the chance to look at it on Amazon Prime, and I'll give you my thoughts about it right after the jump. Real quick, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe below. The subscribe number has still been rising, even though we haven't been around as much. I have still been uploading the audio versions of our podcast, so that might be why some people are still chiming in, and I appreciate all of you guys for joining in. But if you haven't already, if you're just seeing this video for the first time, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be one of the first to know about it, all right? So my first venture into this quarantine and chill moment was to stop by Amazon Prime because it's a service that I have that I don't really use for the video stuff as much as I probably should be. So one of the first things I saw when I went back to my menu was Jay and Silent Bob. They're like, this is something you probably like, and they're not wrong. I was a pretty big Kevin Smith fan in the View Askew production towards the beginning. I think the Chasing Amy, Mallrats, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob, the original. That's kind of my realm. I don't really care that much for the stuff that he's recently done. I've seen some of it. Some of it I just have all around stayed away from. But I still genuinely like Kevin Smith as a person, as a podcaster, and as a film goer, as a film fan. I really appreciate him. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll watch Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Why not? And I will say that it for the most part it did what it was supposed to do as far as a fan of his work. So here are my likes. One of the biggest likes is if you're a fan of the View Askew Jay and Silent Bob history of films, you're gonna eat this up. This film is very fan servicey, sometimes to a bit of a detriment, which we'll get into later, but it is very fan servicey. Anything and everything that you can think of that existed in the entire history of all of Jay and Silent Bob somehow comes back into this. Specifically, if you've seen Jay and Silent Bob the original, this film, even to the extent that Kevin Smith has said, it's the exact same damn film as the original film, Jay and Silent Bob, just with a new coat of paint. But that's sort of what a lot of remakes and reboots are now. It's sort of a tongue-in-cheek meta way of doing that. Star Wars Force Awakens is nothing but a new hope with a new coat of paint. So that's sort of what this film is. Number two, to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, this film is very meta in a way that it does things. It's super tongue-in-cheek. It winks at the audience, literally, and it's expecting you to kind of understand the state of film and what the film has come to now, where it's all reboots, remakes, and sequels, kind of what our podcast is about. And it does it in a film form. I just wish it leaned a little bit more into the meta stuff. Sometimes it just kind of dips its toe in and then it explains some things and then dips back out and kind of goes more by the basics. And I wish it kind of did that side a little bit more. But it's fun when it does it because you're kind of like, I'm in on this show, Kevin. And if you're a fan of his podcast and you listen to his podcast, you can kind of hear his voice as a podcaster and what he's doing on film, because you're like, I see where his brain is going. What I will say that I really enjoyed about this film in comparison to the original Jay and Silent Bob is that there is a lot more heart in this film. There are moments in this film that has some very hard-hitting, I'm going to punch you in the gut, heartwarming moments in it. Back into sort of, you remember that Kevin can do this when you watch stuff like Chasing Amy or even Mallrats, but he hasn't really dipped much into the dramatic bag. And I think with the help of his daughter, Harley, and Jason Mewes, they have some moments that are super hard hitting and kind of like, oh, and I don't know if it's some of it because Kevin's grown up or maybe because I've grown up at this age too, where some of the stuff where you're dealing with father-daughter relationships, even though I don't have a kid, I do have goddaughters and I do have a lot of young people that I care about. When you start seeing these relationships play out on film, it kind of is like, oh God, that's pretty rough. And it's good to see that he takes the time now to pause out and amidst all the chaos to kind of just have a couple of heartwarming moments that I think separate this film from the previous Jay and Silent Bob and kind of give you while it is the same thing being repeated, it sort of gives you a new look at it that you would not have gotten. One, I don't think he would have been able to do this at that point in time, just because I don't think the audience that he was catering to cared about that, but now that that audience is older, it's sort of fitting that he's giving that credence. All right, so the dislikes. Now, this is sort of goes back to what I said before. It's a kind of the coin, two sides of the coin. I do think this film's a little too fan servicey. If you're just going through Amazon Prime and you're trying to pick a movie out, I don't think this is the movie you should watch if you don't have any other prior View Askew, Jay and Silent Bob films in your brain, because there are a lot of jokes that made me smile, but I know if I had not seen those previous movies, I'd be like, what the hell does that mean? You know? And I think Kevin Smith knows who this audience is for. He's not making this movie to gain new audience members or gain new fans. This movie is specifically made to kind of be a tongue-in-cheek look at two characters who have grown up, and sometimes when you grow up, some things change. And I think that's sort of the point of this film, more so than gaining new fans. And it can make the movie kind of feel one way. For that audience, I think this hits. For anybody else, you're kind of gonna be bored out of your mind, because I don't think he's not reinventing the film wheel with this. I mean, even by his own admission, this movie is literally the exact same film as Jay and Silent Bob, the original. So you take that with you want. If you like that one, just think of that one done exactly the same with a little bit more peppering and a little bit more heart, but a little less originality and a little less, I won't say being in the moment, but a little less fun. The spark is not as big as it was when that first one came out. And some of that's just because the audience has grown up. I will also admit, because this might be a little bit reason why some things don't always click with me, is that I am not a stoner. I've never smoked weed before. So I do like to drink. So I do have some type of vice, if you will. But I know stoner comedies sort of fit into this vein, and somehow I still like them all, like Harold and Kumar and all of that stuff. White House, like Harold and Kumar Go to White House and all that stuff. But I don't partake in it. So some things How High I love, which those movies all get references in this. But not being of the world might make me miss some things that a person who is in that world would. The other thing that I like and I don't like, there are cameos upon cameos upon cameos in this. Some of them do a service to the film. I think I don't want to ruin them all, but one of them in the commercial, you can clearly see that Ben Affleck is a part of this film, and I think his works well. There are some that you can tell that either Kevin was just doing a favor or got them in and didn't have a really well to direct them. I think everything that happens, there's a sequence, I won't say when or where it pops up, but with Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl, plays someone else in this film, and with Val Kilmer and one of the remaining members of Cheech and Chong. Won't say, you'll get it all. You'll see the whole thing. But I just think that that whole sequence is kind of just a waste, mainly because one of the actors just doesn't have anything to go with. It's just weird. It just plays flat. There are a lot of cameos that just end up playing flat. And you're like, oh, it's cool to see that person again or see this person. But outside of the ones that actually have an attachment to the View Askew world, they all sort of lose something for me. So when I overall think about it, I don't know if this is a film that I would kind of go back to. I don't know if Kevin Smith's films really ever get repeat viewings from me. Like I own Jay and Silent Bob the original, I own Dogma, and I own Chasing Amy. Out of all of his films, with the exception of Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which I feel like is a completely different thing, I can rewatch that one, even though he's not a big fan of that. But Dogma and Chasing Amy are the two of his films that I will go back and actively watch. While I own Jay and Silent Bob, I hardly ever go back to it. And if that's the bar, then this would fall below that. I think it's a fitting film for him. It's definitely better than Coppola, and it's definitely better than a lot of other stuff that he's done. But it's sort of in the middle tier. So while I enjoyed seeing it, and it's probably because I'm sort of aged out of some of the comedy that's in this, but what got me was the heart. It's a mixed bag. This is a weird one because if you're a fan of Kevin Smith films, you should see this. If you're not, you might want to stay away. And if you're kind of in the middle where you used to be and you're not as much anymore, I think once is enough. And that's kind of where I fit is once is enough for me. So if you're a fan of the channel and you've seen some of my other film reviews, I go into three breakdowns for films. It's either give me a time stone, so I never have to see this film again, Once is Enough, or Play It Again, Sam. This falls in the middle of Once is Enough. Not because it's a bad film, not because it's a great film. It's just a movie that it's a solid entry into Kevin Smith's filmography, but I don't think it needs to be have repeated viewings. But that's me. What did you guys think? Have you seen it? Did you watch Jay and Silent Bob Reboot? What are your thoughts? Go ahead and leave yours in the comments below. You can email us at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at HollywoodADI. We also have a podcast by the same name that is on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We are currently recording those via remote, so we're still practicing social distancing. We are not going to be doing those in person, but we'll be doing those via Skype. I believe this last week we talked about A Quiet Place, which should have come out with part 2 this week, and then The Hunt, which was released on VOD, and sort of how the VOD is working in the current climate. This next week we're going to be talking about Bloodshot, which just got released on VOD today. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you guys have anything that you're currently binging or you're watching or you'd like to recommend that I see during this quarantine and chill, go ahead and shoot them out. Let me know. I am currently watching, I'm about 3 episodes left on the 2nd season of Jack Ryan, which I have watched from start to finish within about a 48 to 72 hour period. I love it. So that'll probably be the next thing that I talk about. But if you have anything else, let me hear it. Normally, I would close out the video by saying, I got my ticket, you got yours, but nobody's got any of those right now because all the theaters are closed. So stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.